Hey gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. So today's video is about my Mark 18 build. Now, I say the word Mark 18 loosely. All right, I've got a build list here on the screen for you. It's not an exact Daniel Defense Mark 18. It's not like a perfect clone or even a real Daniel Defense rifle. The only real thing on here that's actually Daniel Defense is the rail, but I get to that here in a second. So why did I choose the Mark 18? I chose the Mark 18 because it's one of the easiest builds to kind of, I guess, get that cool factor out of initially. That and the affordability of like putting together an air routine, super cheap, right? You can start off with cheap parts and get a Daniel Defense rail, and you have a cool looking gun that may not perform as well, but you can upgrade them as you go along, which I did, and I'm still in the process of doing so. Additionally, I went with the 11.5 because for me, my situation, my environment, what I preparing for, I live in the city. I live in an urban environment, and having a smaller weapon, something I can maneuver around. I'm not saying I'm the most super high speed CQB guy, but it just makes sense if I'm in and out of vehicles and I'm training around, neighborhood. Not I'm training around neighborhoods, but if something were to happen, it's a bit easier, right? You got to take into account like having a family and stuff like that. Like I've got a kid and stuff like that. So there's less shit, less weight. Try to make that package as small as possible. However, that Daniel Defense rail is tried and true, right? It's been proven time and time again. Dude's doing God's work with it overseas and stateside. So for me, that rail was kind of my core component, what I was building this rifle around. Additionally, like when I was a kid, Mid-Level Honor Warfighter was a huge game that came out, at least initially when it popped off, and I loved it. And the Mark 18 was used pretty prolifically in that game, as well as like the 416 builds, stuff like that. So I fell in love with the build. I fell in love with the gun, and that's what I ended up building it out. So I want to talk a little bit about affordability. So the rail itself, I think when I first got it back in 2018, it ran me about $400. I think I got it on Facebook, or maybe it was tax swap. I can't really remember. So that was like my entry, I guess, so to speak. I had initially just started with the SoGlo lower receiver. So you can see I've got like that SoGlo logo there. All right. And that was it. One of my family members had got me like an Arrow upper, and it had the classic Arrow front end, the shitty rail and the shit barrel, all that stuff. And I just popped the Daniel Defense rail on there, and then over time I would upgrade the parts. So you'll see here, eventually I would get an 11.5 Roscoe Bloodline. All right, it's one of the cheaper barrels, but it's one of the ones I was suggested that it's pretty solid for what you're paying for. I think I paid somewhere around $150 for $130, something like that. I do intend to upgrade to a SOCOM, kind of like a heavier barrel, because I want to eventually be able to shoot like 5.5A1 out of this gun. So I need like a workhorse for a barrel. But I upgraded my barrel. The upper is still Arrow, so the actual like just the upper itself is still Arrow, but the charging handle was not. So the charging handle I have is a Silencer Co. gas defeating charging handle. All right, I absolutely love this charging handle. On the bottom, there's a rubber piece that essentially prevents gases from leaking as best it can underneath the gap there. Because if you've ever shot, especially like 5.5A1, for example, there's a lot of fucking gas, right? And when you suppress it, there's a lot of gas. So for me, having something like that to mitigate that as best as possible, it's not going to do it completely, but to mitigate it as best I can was important. I had heard nothing but good things about those. I hear, there's other charging handles out there. I know there's some other, I think like the Raptor charging handles are good too. It's really your preference. This is one I saw on tax swap for like $60. Couldn't pass it up. I do want to note that when I spray painted my rifle initially, I had spray paint, I had separated the stuff but I spray painted the top portion there. And when I pulled the charging handle back, it ruined that rubber piece underneath the charging handle. So I have to get a new one. I'm not sure how much they cost, but I know they do sell them on the website. But keep that in mind, guys. If you're going to run these charging handles, keep that in mind. What I ended up doing is I ended up just sanding it down, sanding the paint off, so that way I wouldn't have the issue again. But my muzzle brake is just a dead air 3-prong. All right, pretty simple. Not too worried about it. You don't have to time it or anything like that crazy. I do have it nice and professionally set. It's good to go. And then that matches up quite nicely with my dead air Sandman S. All right, I'll kind of show you how that attaches. For me, you just kind of rotate it around until it eventually sits, and it should lock on. There you go, just like that. All right, and you just fucking twist it on, just like that. So that's nice and on there, pretty easy, pretty chill. I just took this to the range a couple days ago, and it does all right. You know, it's not the absolute best. It's not as great as some of the caliber specific suppressors, but eventually I'll make a separate video on that one. But for now, just wanted to show it to you. I do have this nice little carrying case I got off eBay for it, you know, just to keep it nice and safe, so I know where it's at. Just get lost in all my other bullshit that I have. Accountability and stuff like that is important. With that being said, I'm running a simple Magpul VFG. It's a super simple grip. Everyone sees them. They're pretty cheap, like 20 bucks. I have another Magpul sling point here. I don't remember exactly what that's called. Magpul CTR stock. All right, P-Mags for the win. More Magpul in the back. And then we flip to the other side. You can see the Sons of Liberty bolt carrier group right there. Barely see the logo there. And then EOTech XPS 3, and then I have a Unity riser. I have a Surefire Scoutlight. It's an older one. It's not as strong as some of the modern ones, but I had this one from my time in the Army, so I naturally just, you know, kept it and used it. I have a full power PEC 15 here, and complete with my jank ass tie down and everything. So is my jank ass tie down on my EOTech. Two things I don't want to lose. I did talk to some of my buddies, and they did recommend using chicken wire or gun wire. I used paracord throughout my time in the Army. I'm not too super familiar with using gun wire, but I might look into doing that in the future. So that's a pretty simple overview of my Mark 18 build. You know, some guys are purists and some guys aren't. Some guys are going to say, hey, that's not a Mark 18, man. That's not down to the fence. You know, that might be the case, but this is my build, and this is what works for me. If I were to try and throw a price on everything, I think I'd probably have around, I want to say it was like $3 grand, maybe $4 grand. That's not including the PEC 15. Man, it's probably pushing 5 now that I think about it. I'm not the greatest at math. I'm an infantryman, but with that being said, guys, I hope you liked the video. I want to leave you guys off with, you know, a good word of advice. You can argue builds and brands all day long, but you can't argue fundamentals, improvement skills. So go outside, go to the range, train with your friends, establish community, and at the end of the day, have a good time, you know, have fun. That's it for today, guys. Y'all have a good one, and thanks for watching.